right, thank you. Couple of quick housekeeping items. If you could silence your cell phones, and in case there's an emergency in the building this evening, we don't anticipate one, but in case, please do not use the elevator. If you need to use the stairwell, if you need assistance, wait for emergency services to come and get you. There's some exits here and here. Convenience facilities are located outside to the left and the right over near the elevator. So thank you very much for coming out tonight. What we'll do is we're going to do a quick recap of our last two sessions so that you know where we are. We're going to give a talk about why we were here. For people who have been joining all of our sessions, I'm sorry you're going to hear the same thing, but we will do a quick overview of the Exit 4A project, quick intro to planning and zoning for those who don't know what that's about, and then we'll get into why we're really here. We want your input, and then we'll talk about our next steps. So the goals, what we really want to do is we want to talk or get input from you about potential zoning changes. We want to talk about things as we go through the evening about permitted uses, things you might want to see, don't want to see in the area, architectural design elements you may or may not want to see, things about height. Do you want height restrictions, no height restrictions, setbacks? We'll talk a little bit about buffers and how we can use those in the regulatory controls and the tools that we use. The information that we'll gather from, that we're gathering from all these sessions, we're going to also use to inform the next master plan update. And the planning board is going to take all of the information that we're getting from these sessions and use the information to work to craft new zoning in this area. Targeted timeline, we're looking at bringing all the information from these three sessions together to one larger visioning session in April. At that session, we'll kind of condense down what we have received as input and offer it to the group to kind of condense it even more and format it. We'll take that to the planning board, and the planning board will use that information to start working on zoning changes. And so we're hoping to have that whole process. Once planning board starts its amendment process, the planning board will craft the language or the changes and then bring it to town council. So we're hoping to have that whole process finished by the end of August. So last session, which was February 10th, we heard some of the same concerns, protection of the existing residential uses, fear of overcrowding, concerns about traffic flow, and as I said, there were very similar concerns that we heard. Okay, so threw me a little. Sorry, threw me off track. So now I'm all discombobulated. So things that we heard the last session, we talked about maybe allowing cafe uses, small restaurants in places that looked like single-family homes. We talked about amenities and safe connections to the rail trail, manufacturing, machine shops, research facilities, trade schools and training centers, getting those into this area, overlaying, like doing some sort of overlay zoning to protect existing residential. There was a strong desire to have low nuisance or no nuisance uses. No one wanted used car sales or storage facilities. A hotel would be a big draw. And once again, overlay zones, which allows some flexibility. There was concern not to add additional multifamily, and we wanted to make sure whatever we did, there was residential buffering. So for those who are not familiar, the Gateway District is the new entrance off of 93, coming through Londonderry into Derry. Review of this area to look at it for an economic development and zoning standpoint was part of our 2020 master plan. It was part of the goals. And it was also a town council goal to look at this area to see if we could encourage economic development and further some of the commercial activities. So real quick overview of Exit 4A. This is the whole, I think this is contract B. Contract A was coming off the exit through Londonderry into Derry. So this portion is what is being constructed now, everything that you see in yellow. And for this evening, you know, we'll kind of narrow in on the area that we're talking about. Generally, this is the area we're talking about this evening, is this side of the road. So the reason we have Exit 4A, reduce congestion off of the downtown, improve safety, and promote economic vitality in Londonderry and Derry. Things that we are going to get out of this project, the new Londonderry interchange with the easterly access to Derry, the 4-lane connector road, which is called the Old Rum Trail. We're getting improvements on Folsom and Chenito, and also stormwater treatment, which will help us meet our MS4 criteria. The end result is that completed interchange. We'll get 3 new bridges, especially the one over Shields Brook. There's going to be a coordinated traffic system, enhanced capacity on Folsom. And this project, you know, the costs keep going up on it. Last count, it was about an $80 million project. Derry already paid $5 million towards the project, and so there's no impact to the taxpayers for this. This is a state-managed project. This is not a Town of Derry project. So DOT is, they have jurisdiction over things like utility poles, drainage, how the traffic flows. They have the control over the design, the intersections, road width, the rail trail design, and any mitigation that might come with the project. Town of Derry, we only have control over our local street traffic. Highway Safety Committee can review things like one-way street requests, concerns about traffic once this is all done. Once the project is complete, the town will be maintaining the road, Folsom and Chenito, as always. Tonight, we can take feedback on things like architectural design, residential buffers, and types of uses. So I'm not going to read this whole thing, but essentially, the environmental impact statement did a really big study of the traffic and the impacts that Exit 4A would have. And the end result was by the year 2040, we would have an increase of about 18,000 cars on Folsom Road. Right now, there's about 20,000 a day, so we should end up about 38,000. But I do want to point out that along with that increase in traffic, the intersections are going to be signalized. We're going to have 3 new signalized intersections along the route, and they should be all timed so that we're not going to be stopping and starting and stopping and starting. Construction timelines. Right now we are in construction. They're doing the utility installations, the off-road improvements, and the roadway is designed primarily to be 2 lanes on either side with turning lanes in a median. They're working on all of that in 2025. 26 through 28, they're going to finish Folsom Road through Pinkerton Street. And they'll also be adding a new light at Pinkerton Street. Contract C is going to start just above Pinkerton Street and will go out to 102. And that road will not be widened as much, but there will be some improvements there. We don't have a timeline for the start of that construction. But it is important for those who are not aware that the town will be doing a water project on Chenito Road from Irving out to 102. So when you see construction out there this summer, this is not Exit 4A construction, it's the town water expansion. So tonight, The three areas, we had three distinct areas we were talking about in the gateway. Tonight we're focusing on the blue area, which is Folsom Road North, Tinkham A and B streets. In that area, we've got single family and multifamily homes. We have warehouse and industrial in a mix of commercial uses. We have your arts and your entertainment. We have the sports complex. There's light manufacturing and wholesale distribution. So opportunities in this area include things like reinvestment, new leases, or aggregation of property. There's not a lot of vacant land in this area. There's only a few vacant lots. So, keep that in mind as you're thinking about things that you might want to see change or potential uses. So the zoning is, in this along here, I have a zoning map later, but right along here is general commercial, and this is all industrial 4. And there were handouts in the back of the room that kind of listed the uses that are allowed in those zones to kind of help you. So planning and zoning, a quick 101. So zoning is a way to divide towns into distinct areas, like residential, industrial, commercial, and then we put rules and regulations on top of those areas to kind of help regulate those uses. When we have a list of permitted uses in a zone, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get that use, but it allows for the opportunity. So it creates an opportunity to bring something. So we've consistently heard that we would like to get something like Whole Foods or Market Basket here. We do allow grocery stores in our commercial district, but once again, because we allow it doesn't mean that they're going to come. There's other, and Bev will get more into the market conditions and things that bring those types of businesses or certain types of businesses to us. So the planning board drafts and crafts the proposed changes to the zoning ordinance. They hold public hearings, so you have an opportunity to come and provide input. Once the board has approved the zoning changes, they go to town council for final approval in Derry. So you also have an opportunity, you have basically 2 public hearings where you can provide input on potential zoning changes. So the planning board is also responsible for the development of the master plan. And the zoning board is basically the relief valve. So whatever those rules are in the zoning ordinance, if you need relief from that, you go to the ZBA. In your master plan, for those who aren't familiar, it's basically our to-do list for the next 15, 20 years. It provides an overarching set of goals and expectations that were brought out of sessions like this, where the community came together and said, we want the town to look like this, or we would like to see this within the next so many years. And we take those suggestions, put them together, and we set up goals and expectations and ways to get there. So once again, I won't go through this. All of this is online on the planning board page of the town website. There's a link in the left side green links that says Gateway Committee, and so all of these presentations are here, so you can go back and look at the slides if you want some more in-depth. But basically, this whole thing started around 1984, meaning the concept of 4A. In 2004, we created a TIF district over on Ash Street, so where Corporate Park Drive is now, to create opportunities for economic development. And for those who are familiar with the area, that was a very successful project for the town. And we have some nice development up there now. They expanded that district in 2020, and it became known as the Gateway District. So this committee was established with the task of holding sessions like this and coming up with ideas to enhance development. So change is kind of inevitable. And so what we want to do is we kind of want to craft what we can expect to see within the next few years. So I'm going to turn this over to Bev at this point. So I can go to the next slide. I'd like to introduce you to Beverly Donovan. She's our Economic Development Director.
Hello. Oh, do you have the one with the bullet points?
I do. Okay, and this is just a quick look of zoning, what it looks like for these lots in Area 1.
Okay, I think this is working. All right. Okay. Again, Bev Donovan, Derry Economic Development. And I just want to go over just quickly these bullet points, and then I know we'll get to questions fairly soon. So the first one, land and location. As you saw in the last slide, there's kind of two zones side by side. There's in the Industrial 4 section, which is basically Tinkham Ave, Manchester Road area, going sort of northwest to the Londonderry line. That's Industrial 4. There's approximately 8.5 acres of vacant land there today. Some are already in some state of disposition, meaning there's designs on it or letters of intent or, somebody just thinking about selling or whatnot. The largest of those is about 3.5 acres, and the smallest is under an acre. So if you think about that for size-wise, there's not a lot of huge building opportunities. But there is potential for aggregation if property owners were to decide to get together and do that. The other zone there is general commercial, and those are the properties starting at the police station and going sort of southwest down Folsom Road and turning the corner, and there's a couple of parcels on Franklin Street Extension. Those are much smaller properties. In some cases, there is a single owner that owns multiples, others, people that are deciding to stay or not stay. So lots of negotiations happening. Some are still in progress. Property owner consideration. Any of the properties that are included in the scope of the 4A project have been or still are in the process of acquisition. Other properties in the zone continue to be privately owned, so not every property is affected that's in the zone. But no property that's privately owned would be required to be sold, and the use can stay the same, and the tax structure would also stay intact. Adding new uses might open future opportunities for property owners, but it's important to the town that we look to the future while being mindful of the present. So we're not looking for wholesale changes, but we do know that things will change. For community desires and vision, the community has a unique opportunity to look at the current zones and decide what, if any, changes they would like to propose to ensure well thought out economic opportunities for the future. Once the community provides input to the planning board and the town council, followed by the zoning change implementation, the Economic Development Office will work with the property owners and any interested parties to help facilitate future economic development. And again, no requirement for any property owner to sell. Market opportunities, given the location of the roadways, rights of way and other factors, the residual land doesn't lend itself to large-scale development. However, small to mid-scale opportunities will serve as transitional areas and with larger scale opportunities down on A Street and then potentially going up Manchester Roadway across the way. As gateway properties, there's already been positive and plentiful interest by current property owners and also potential investors to bring forward projects that we hope will enhance that zone. And again, the gateway area is constrained by lot size, infrastructure, and physical aspects. So really my expectation is the scale of any new development would not overwhelm the existing zone, but there are opportunities to maybe make things a little bit better. All right. Thanks, Bev.
In a few minutes. Okay. So we will get to questions. I just want to get like all the talking out of the way first. So we do have land use tools available to us. This was a question that came up at the last session, so we'd like to kind of talk about this a little bit. Our architectural design regulations will help, and they do help control how things look. Landscape buffering helps us control views. It can add screening, and it can also assist with noise reduction. And public input is actually a land use tool. Like coming to meetings like this and speaking and having your voice heard, it's really critical and important to any potential changes that we make in the town. So this is an example of how landscaping can be used. So when Corporate Park Drive was developed in 2017, you can see they put in some landscaping trees. Now those have all kind of grown and matured, and they kind of provide a nice buffer to, you know, it doesn't hide the development, but it kind of adds and it does buffer. In Brookstone Park, so on the bottom, you can see if you're traveling south towards Windham and Salem on 111 from Hampstead, and you start coming down towards LaBelle, there was a natural row of pine trees that was left to kind of screen the development from the road. And as you come in, you can see that you know, they were able to utilize some other elements and things to, you know, keep it attractive, but it's not like all that whole row of buildings isn't just right on the highway. For architectural design, Casa Java Cafe on Birch Street is an example of how an existing residence was turned into a business. So you're keeping that, you know, you're keeping the original feel and look of the building, but you're allowing it to become something else. Another example of architectural design and how you can use those elements, this was a recently approved project on Humphrey Road. This is what's projected to be on the south side of the Humphrey, right off of 28. They're proposing this would be a restaurant with, there's like 22,000 square feet of commercial space here, and you can see how they used our architectural design regulations to kind of create a building that matches the area and doesn't look too off-putting as you're driving up that, you know, that historic actually stretch of road. At this point, did you, I'm just going to take a minute and introduce our planning board chairman, David Nelson, who had a few comments, and then we will get to the questions.
So I just want to give everyone sort of the 10,000-foot view. Why are we doing this? Why are we proposing zoning changes? You notice we've labeled this the Gateway District. Typically, as I'm sure Beverly can confirm, the sort of things that drive economic development, especially non-residential businesses, manufacturing, other uses like that, is availability of infrastructure, you know, sufficient electricity, water, sewer, natural gas, and the other big thing is transportation. Easy access off the highway is a biggie. And so we realized that with the building of Exit 4A, that's what we're going to get, is we're going to get a mass infusion of easy access off the highway. And we can either take advantage of this by figuring out how to maximize the potential for folks in the area to unlock additional value in their property based on what could happen, or we could do nothing and just let it grow organically and potentially miss a large opportunity. There is some time pressure to this. You know, the people who are looking to do these kinds of economic projects know this is coming, and we need to get the enabling zoning in place for them to be able to make appropriate decisions. Now, that doesn't mean that people who are there already want to keep their use, want to stay in their home, want to stay in their little business, whatever. As Elizabeth said, no one's going to be forced to change. No one's going to be forced to sell. It's more of an opportunity for upping the value of your property, unlocking some additional value in what for most people is a major asset. And we'd like to do that in a way that protects a migration of uses from what we have today to what we're envisioning for the future. And that's where the architectural design regulations, the overlay regulations, and the buffering come in, so that we can get from where we are now to a preferred future state of increased economic development in an orderly fashion. Because one of the things almost everyone in town wants is lower taxes. That's difficult if the only uses in town are residential. And so we in Derry don't have as much commercial, non-residential landmass and property as Londonderry, Manchester, Nashua. So we have to husband what we have very, very carefully. And this is a great opportunity that we thought we should not let go by without doing some thoughtful introspection on how we can make it better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so I know we kind of went through all of that really quickly, so I'm sure there are some questions and some comments. So at this time, before we go into the like actual visioning, does anybody have any questions about what we just went over? If you do, please feel come to the mic, and if you could give your name and your address, that would be really helpful. And if not, we'll go into the visioning piece.
I don't know if this is the time to ask the question or not. I think everybody can hear me.
Yeah, we have a TV audience, so could you use the mic, please?
I know, sorry. People at home want to hear you.
Which way do I face?
You face right to the microphone, right to the mic. Yep.
No, that's fine. My question, I'm Jim Goss, live on Concord Ave. My question is this, probably two-part question, but as it stands right now, maybe you or somebody from the planning, zoning group can answer the question, how is Folsom Road zoned right now from Franklin Street up to, pick a location, up to the car wash?
So on the, let's go back. Let me go here.
And a follow-up to that, after answering what is it, how is it zoned, if you say, 1, 2, 3, 4, that means absolutely nothing.
Sure, okay.
What are the current allowances, restrictions, as it stands right now? That's my second part. Thank you very much.
Sure. So right now we're looking, so in this area, we're looking at the, like the more northern section. So this is the Crystal Ave, Shenito, Manchester Road intersection. You have the police department, you have the car wash, and we come down to Franklin. This is all general commercial. It is our broadest zone. I don't have, well, let me go grab the list of permitted uses. You can do things like auto, warehouse. Oh, thanks, Steve. I appreciate that. Auto uses, warehouse, light industrial, light manufacturing, retail. Let me see what else. Aquaponics, that was something we added a few years ago, or aeroponics. Banking, your breweries. We have commercial service establishments, daycares. Derry is one of the few communities that allows daycares in our commercial and industrial districts, which is actually a benefit for business owners. Things like restaurants are in the general commercial zone. We allow hospitals, hotels, hydroponics, indoor recreation, indoor farming. I think I talked about light industry and manufacturing, medical office, professional office, and some public uses, research and development. I mean, it's a pretty extensive list for general commercial. So in industrial 4, which is this area, which is all this purple, we also allow some limited auto sales, same things, aeroponics, aquaponics, breweries, commercial service establishments, contractor yards, trucking terminals, hotels, hydroponic agriculture, indoor farming, industrial establishments, light and heavy, laboratories, so research, development, experimental testing, Manufacturing, the microbrews, we allow movie and recording studios, printers, professional office, R&D, restaurants, retail. This is also one of the few zones where we allow sports wagering. TV broadcasting is permitted, transportation, warehouse, and wholesale business. So those are the uses. If you look on this side down here, this blue is all general commercial, right? This was the first area that we talked about, I think area 3. This is zoned MHDR2, so medium high density residential 2, and the permitted uses there are single family residential. That's pretty much it. And then in other areas, it was other in industrial use. Did I cover everything, Jim?
As long as you have a copy of that, I'll pick one up before I go.
Sure, yeah, there should be some more out there, and if there aren't, feel free to reach out to me, and I can email it to you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Any other questions?
So I saw, we're from the car wash, Brian and Laura
Okay,
Messina.
hi.
And so mine's about design on Folsom Road. And there's a U-turn that's going to be allowed at both ends. So there's a light at Franklin that'll be a U-turn, right, Franklin? And then there's a U-turn available at Crystal in Folsom because there's a large median strip going down the middle of the road. And so when we first saw this many years ago, we said, why do you need a large median strip? Because it stops all that extra 18,000 member and plus my 20,000 that started
Right.
from getting into my car wash
Sure, yeah.
and into the police station. So it'll be right turn only out at the car wash once they're done, because you can't go over the median strip. So my question is, does the town have authority to get rid of the median strip and make a left turn?
Okay, so my understanding is that there's been a memorandum of understanding between the town of Derry and Stinson Hills. So Stinson Hills owns this piece right here. The town had right of first refusal on some of the state-owned properties. So when the, lost my mouse, when they widen it, it's going to come, like this, and as I know, like it's going to come across the front of your business. There is a proposal to put a light at Laconia, which will create access, and then change the entrance into the Stinson Hills property so that it's not here, it's up adjacent to you.
Just fine.
Yeah, so that
they've
will-
been really
yeah, so that
gracious
will-
with
yeah,
that,
so-
but just to let you
yeah.
know, for
Yeah.
as long as that takes, maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years, we don't know how long that's going to take in order for that to get into fruition. There's very limited amount of ability for people to come into the car wash and the police station. So I just want, and then is the U-turn, we were told that the U-turn may never, it could change. Like if there's a problem, the town could get rid of the U-turn. And then we're all out of luck on that, so.
Yeah, that, Mark, is that something that, I'm not quite as up to date on the actual design, the final design for how all of that goes, so I'm not sure that I'm qualified to answer that, but is it okay to defer to you? Okay. Okay. Finals, okay.
Yeah, that's so great
Okay.
because they're coming in front of my car wash in May. Okay.
Okay.
So that's great that they don't have any conclusions. Then we have to completely renovate our car wash in order to allow proper car flow in the front of our car wash because they're taking so much land in the front. And so we're going to need to cut back our tunnel about 10 feet, cut our detail bay in half for car flow coming around, move our propane way in the back. So what kind of things do we have to do in order to get architectural design, approval for where the propane tank goes, the vacuums, all of that? What's that process?
Okay, so since your site will need to change a little bit, I guess I would invite you, maybe come in and chat with me in the planning department. And what we can do is we can capture what that's going to look like on paper. We're still kind of working out how, and we'll chat with the planning board chairman too, like how we get that through the process. Once again, it's a state project, it's state driven, but at the end of the day, when they're done with their improvements, there are things that are happening to existing businesses. Yours is really affected, and so we can get together and we can look at how that needs to look at the end of the day and get that captured on paper and get it through any process it needs to go through.
So the hard part is that they want hard numbers, right, for a counteroffer. And so it's just like always putting the cart before the horse, right? So I'm
I
going to
understand, yeah.
go with that and then hope that, that fits the town's plans for making it look pretty. So I guess we'll just have to work together.
No, we'll absolutely work with you as best we can. But I guess, it would probably behoove us all to have a sit down again
Okay,
with,
so we meet with
yourself
you then?
and,
Is that where we
Elizabeth
go?
and with Bev Donovan. Yeah,
Okay.
we can sit down and we'll work through that.
All right, so we'll just call and make an appointment.
Please, yeah, that would be helpful. Okay, yeah.
Janice Mobsby, Folsom Road. I know that I heard that there's an urgency to make the changes to zoning now when we don't have this information about how the access to the properties in that general commercial district on the north side of Folsom Road. I guess I'm trying to understand is it you're looking to change that area to all industrial, or are you planning on just leaving it alone?
We're looking for the input so we know what to do in the future. So right now, it is what it is. So we're looking for the input, and then the planning board will start looking to see what might be the best way to change that on the north side. So,
But I'm thinking that somebody's got to know what the traffic flow is going to be, where the access points are going to be, and how it's going to work. Because you could say, oh, I want XYZ in that general commercial district, but we don't know what the access points are except for the Stinson Hill entrance on Laconia and to the police
yeah.
station. That's the only thing that we know about.
Yep,
So when
go
you're
back to
talking
here.
about that section,
go here again.
when you're
Okay.
looking for an opportunity, what is the opportunity that economic development is looking for, planning is looking for? I'm really interested in knowing exactly what that means to us. Is it to, what types of industry do you want differently in those areas than what we have now?
So right now we have on that side of the road,
different.
yeah, yeah. So different than that. I guess, and I may have to defer to Mr. Nelson, but when you're looking at zoning in areas like this, so you've got dense residential here, you have what were residences here and small businesses in residential looking homes. You want to sometimes retain like the character that you can. So, we may look at, and once again, I'm not a decision maker, I just offer suggestions, the board decides. You may want to look at allowing, smaller type uses, sort of like what we have in the office business district, where things are, looks like what Casa Java did. You take like existing structures, turn them into new businesses. I'm going to let Dave talk. I guess what I want to say is like we have an exhaustive list of uses. Just because the use is there doesn't mean it's going to go there. We're not going to I don't think you're going to get like an ice skating rink over here. That's for sure. Dave?
So a couple of comments. With respect to road layout, traffic patterns, access to parcels in and out, That's really not a zoning thing, that's a site plan thing. That's what the planning board does most of the time, is approve applications for subdivisions and site plans. Zoning is the big picture, what can you do there? As to how you make it work for a particular parcel, that's really a site plan thing, and the state allows us to have conceptual discussions early on. It can be just drawings on the back of a napkin. We can talk very high level, and then work more towards specific designs as the information is available. What we're trying to do with potentially changing zoning is the nature of that area is going to change. I mean, right now, it's a great way to go to the breweries, because I like to go to the breweries. It's a great sort of back road cut through to Londonderry, but it's going to become a major access off the highway. And so what sort of businesses, what sort of uses would be likely to come to an area that had great, easy highway access as opposed to more of a back cut through? And so we're saying that's going to change. The traffic's going to come. Can we take advantage of that to the betterment of the town, as well as all the folks who own property in that area? And so that's what's really driving it, is that the nature of the value of the property is going to change based on its accessibility. And so think about what kind of additional uses in these districts, what kind of businesses might find that a really nice place to start their new business or move to. And then for folks who have existing businesses, after all of the eminent domain is done and after all the highway design is done, the planning board can certainly work with you to figure out how you document whatever you're going to do to reconfigure your parcel to make it work for you.
Any other questions?
Keith Yampanis, the Fairways. It's just a real quick question. What are the intentions of Franklin Avenue Extension, Franklin Street Extension in A and B? Are they going to be an alternative route to the grocery stores, or are we going to actually try and discourage people from using that, from cutting through that neighborhood?
Well, going out Franklin Street Extension, like out to A and B, only one of the. Yeah, I don't think that will become. If people are trying to get to either Hannaford or to Shaw's, I think they're going to stay. I don't think they're going to go off Franklin Street Extension. They're going to go the most direct. Yeah. Okay, but not to go to Shaw's, but to go to Hannaford.
They just cut through to go to
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're going to see an increase of traffic on Franklin Street Extension because people are going to come off the highway. They're going to come to that set of lights. They're going to take a left down Franklin Street Extension to get into A and B Street. There's industry there. There's industry that is becoming, that's increasing in popularity, and their businesses are growing, and that's going to become more of there's going to be a lot more traffic there. So the question was if there were going to be sidewalks. I don't have the DOT plan in front of me, so I can't answer that question. But I'm looking at our town engineer. Okay, yeah. So it's believed that there might be sidewalks in the new portion. On Franklin, we can. We'll find out. All right, we'll find out. And so on that page on the website, there is when I get answers to questions, I do put them there so that everyone has access to it. All right, any other questions? Questions, or are you going to give us your visioning? Both. Okay.
As the most affected landowner on Folsom Road, that's what the state told me, the chief engineer at the time. You are the most affected landowner. I'm going to do both.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just real quick though, for the lady with the car wash, if I heard her say something counter offer, so she's probably negotiating with the state, I don't know. They're going to do an appraisal thing. She don't get a lot for that, but she does get rehabilitation money, which is up to $100,000 a lot, and that's where maybe she'll get her money. Okay. For the other lady that asked the questions on the entrances and exits off of Folsom, being I'm one of the bigger property owners there. So there was 9 acres of property there that could have been developed, and now the town has taken 3 out of there that won't be developed, it won't be tax based for their use, for their garages, whatever they're doing. And then there's another 3 acres with Stenson now, I'm sure, or somewhere close to that. They're going to have a few lots, and then there's my lots. There was 3 acres. The state snuck a watershed in there at the last second, the last public meeting, took between the drainage and that another acre from that. So there's not much there. As far as Folsom roads go, for informational purposes, there's 3 entrances off to that general commercial district. 2 of those are in my property. 1 of them was in Stenson's. That's it. It's a state highway. The town doesn't get to decide where exits and entrance go off a state highway. Nobody does. So that's a whole process that takes a long time, you know. So I thought I'd mention those things. It's just informational.
Thank you.
Now, on the zoning, I hear a lot of things about changing zoning. So we already have no real land to work with. We only have about 5 to 6 acres. That's the general commercial. And Folsom Road is the most important land because when you come in when you come in off the highway, you want something there to compete with, if you could, Folsom, Woodmont Acres, and Woodmont, and that whole thing going on in Londonderry. And right now, the 80 North High Street, which goes from the ramp all the way down to Franklin Street, that's wet. Not building on that, there's going to be nothing there. The intent was, and you know, Liz, I brought to the planning board, we were going to build a nice 40,000-foot building that looked nice, was landscaped and everything. State promised that we would swap some land. They reneged. State's great at reneging for a lot of different things. That's neither here nor there. We'll build what we can that can be as big as we can, as nice as we can. We'll do what we can. On the Folsom Road side, I know you mentioned buffering, but buffering and blocking our retail buildings that we may put in is probably not something that we're going to agree with, even with planning, unless it was already high trees and you could see it, because if you don't see the retail, nobody will kind of come. And the whole idea was to get it to come. So there is going to be no entrance from this, now it turns out to be 6 or 7 lanes, you know, 2 lanes going down, 2 lanes going back, and then the lanes turning, and then at the lights a little bit more, maybe 7-lane highway going in there. There's not going to be any entrance from that general commercial zone you see in blue along Folsom going into A and B Street. It will be through Franklin. I don't think Franklin, eventually people will figure out they can't use Franklin too much, because as you get to the end of that street where there's no light, you'll be there forever. You're going to be turning around. I don't know how that's going to work with 30,000 cars one day. So on the zoning part, I don't think this is a really big conversation, because whatever you take out of zoning on general commercial or I-4, where are you going to put it? You can't just take it out of Derry. And I'll just mention car lot. I'm more for what you see here in my buildings. That's what I'm for. But if you take a car lot out of there, you got to give a car lot a chance to sell a car. So you got to put them on another main street. That's how people come by and buy cars. I'm not saying, I'm just using that. The general commercial zone and the I-4 zone are pretty liberal because they have retail. You need the retail, you need the office, you need that anyway. I don't see, when you take something out, like I said, I don't see you putting it back in. I don't think that's a big conversation. As far as the I-4 and the general commercial go, my question, I have a question on that one, but you know, I don't want to see any change in my zone. I bought that zone to be there, and you want me to do something there instead of nothing there, because you already have nothing. We paid $5 million for that. I see Mr. Cardin's here. He was the town council chair at the time that voted for the $5 million. But him, like me, have been going to the meetings for 30 years, and we were told a lot of different things. It didn't happen. Now, we've taken $5 million worth of tax base out of there. We're paying for that, all of us, by the way, and that are here, that live in Derry or whatever, have properties in Derry. And we've lost a lot of money. It's going to be $1 million by the time it's over. We've taken it off the tax roll, and now, like I said, that 9 acres right there, it's now about 5.5, and they still have to have the entrances. So we need something there. I don't know how we're going to get it there. We're hoping to do something with the state. But my question is, is should this even be a conversation changing general commercial? I think people think, and maybe Liz, you can, we can't just pull 7 things out of general commercial. They got to go somewhere, whatever that might be, right? So what do? You pull them out and you put them in another zone. I think the I-5 zone, closer to Ash Street, that doesn't allow retail, I think. I'm not sure. I get my I-4s and my I-5s mixed up. But
Yeah, I think I-5 went away, but.
okay, good.
yeah,
So, yeah, so
okay,
I would say
yeah.
you might add something to it, and I already recommended that the residential have an overlay. So maybe you can do that. So, again, I know there's ideas are coming up and all of that, but let me ask you, I guess my question is, and I got to ask a question about this, is that how do you do that? So you tell me the process. When you take something out, do you just eliminate it out of the town, or do you find a new place for it?
No, well, this isn't the only general commercial area in town. So we also
Right.
we have our general commercial 4, which goes down Ryan's Hill, which also allows similar uses. So if we removed auto sales from this, we're not removing auto sales from the town because we permit it elsewhere.
Except for and that's the place where you permitted it, except they don't want them there anymore, right? I'm
Well,
assuming.
We're asking.
Yeah,
That's
well, on
part of the
28, though,
conversation.
I think I could be wrong. Mr. Nelson probably knows more about it than I do, but
Yeah.
I think in 28 it was no more new car guys. As they disappear, we're done with them because we were trying to get Target. Is that correct?
Heading down Ryan's Hill.
Heading all down 28, yeah.
Yeah,
Down to Rhinesville.
I think I recall the conversation that way back in 2010, that as water and sewer went down towards Wyndham and Salem, that the lots might become more valuable for a different use than the existing one.
Yeah.
That was the conversation.
Okay, and I think when I heard George talking about it back then, I'm doing this from memory, that no longer was going to be we weren't doing car sales down that road anymore. We wanted bigger users, but we want people to go down there,
Yeah.
not have car sales. So they got to go somewhere. I don't know how you pick and choose I would be opposed to any change in a general commercial, even I-4, because it has a lot of liberal stuff. And I think the only value there really is not so much a car lot. And car lots don't bring a lot of money. Not really. They're not good investments. Would be, you have the retail and everything, but I don't think you get rid of them because sometimes things are related in some form or fashion. So that's my opinion on that. So, now what's happened is, and I could read from this, but, the way this works, for those who don't know, we've had so many meetings with the state. And then in 2000, I want to say 19, the special committee met. That was when the whole town was there. I think you were there, Liz. And the last public meeting, that's where they approve stuff and things go in front of the special committee. And then the governor's special committee, they get everything and they approve it. That was in 2019. Well, in 2020, they threw out the underpass, or no, in 2020, I have a letter here from the state that said they were going to do the underpass, and then all of a sudden it disappeared, the rail trail. And
Oh,
now,
yeah, we're not going to talk about the rail trails.
okay, well,
right?
but it's in that zone though.
Okay, it is.
It is in that zone
yeah, it
because
is.
now it's a
Yeah.
spaghetti thing going through there. I was going to get to
Yeah,
that.
okay, yeah.
But
Yeah, that's not finalized, so we don't know what it's going to be, so we're not going to, let's
Right.
not talk about that.
No,
Yeah,
well,
okay.
it's kind of, that takes
Yeah.
up land as they do the spaghetti trail now, running through where it goes in that zone versus where it was going before. It went right straight out, so it didn't. So I wanted to bring it up, and there's several lawsuits already against the state for whatever
Yeah, and
reason.
so, yeah, they need to settle that, and then we'll know
well,
what we're
see,
dealing
but
with.
I'm just saying that was an issue because now it's doing this up and down, and now you need room for it, right? So that was a big issue. So as far as the general commercial in the I-4 zone, you want to have as much as you can. You only have, like you said, 12 acres in the I-4, and you've got now 5 over here. That's it. There's nothing left, and you can't get to I-4 through here. It ain't happening there unless it just won't happen. There's only 2 curb cuts. I have them, and then Stenson's, and the town needs that for, like you said, access to
Right.
Laconia. So,
Yeah, but we're also talking about, we're not just talking about this tight area right here, we're also talking about this. So,
but that's off Crystal, so there's no aesthetic value coming into Derry. It's a destination, and that for that reason, that was so important in Folsom. That's what we all focused on. And the next town chairman actually sent the state a letter for me that says you need to work with Steve. He's a developer and he has most of the land over there, and we want to make sure he gets the land. Well, that didn't happen. So, and again, and I'm not up here complaining about that because I just do what I do, but I'm just saying that be careful you don't start I'm against restricting any zones. I would be fighting that, whatever it took.
Yeah, okay.
Or anything in there. Be careful you don't restrict because it's only a total between even those two areas is maybe 17 acres. It's just not, you got to,
Yeah, yeah.
can't really tell people, okay, we want,
Sure.
hydroponics here. Well, that's nice. But, is anybody going to come fight about it? So that
Well,
I'm
I don't
concerned
know,
with that.
you
and
know,
that's
but
why I
we
asked this
create the
question.
opportunity and they might come.
You never know.
You don't
But I
yeah.
think we need some
Greenleaf,
retail,
Greenleaf,
nice trade.
come, yeah.
Like I said,
Yeah.
my plan,
Yeah.
was nice. It's the right thing to do. It's. I think you need people to stop in a Derry and not just drive out of a Woodmont.
Okay, so let me ask you, Steve, what type of uses do you anticipate?
This
If you
is-
were able to build that, what type of uses are going in there? Because that's the
Yeah.
conversation we want to have.
So this is all retail. You can see it's storefront. There's the front on Folsom, and there's the
Yeah.
side. This is 40,000 feet,
Okay,
and this is office up top, and the whole bottom is all retail with like a nice cafe in the front.
okay, so we're talking about medical office, retail, and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because that's really the only way you're going to get
Okay.
people to stop.
Okay.
Right now, we're competing and we lost 20 businesses. Okay. So just so people know the statistics here, there's a report, I have it here, and the NHDOT, the Highway Department, said, we would get about somewhere between, 116 and 160 jobs in Derry, but Londonderry was going to get 4,800 jobs. There's also 202 mentions about Londonderry. You don't hear Derry about nothing. We paid the same that they did. We paid $5 million. They didn't pay. They paid $5 million. 3,300 of those jobs are coming from what they call the East Woodmont, I think, which is the Hivax property, which we're talking about. They have their own exit, and there's another 3,100 jobs coming. We got nothing out of this. All we got was the $5 million bill, and I want to put something back. So I'm saying you got to be careful with making
Right.
that comment because it's very important.
Right.
You got to be careful when you start to play with zoning, like everybody's having a ball pulling in and out. The last thing I'll mention, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, is that the state legislature now is basically going to come in, and they're coming in, and they're going to tell you you're going to put apartment buildings wherever. I can put them in a general commercial zone. I'll put a building right next to you, put a bunch of apartments, and we're not going to be able to do nothing about it. That's a big issue. You people, if you don't want that, I don't like it. I'm not an apartment building builder. Get to your legislature. Liz told me, send them an email. I'm telling you, people send them an email. No, we don't want that bill because it's coming. And then they're also going to take away the parking restrictions. So zoning and planning are going to have nothing to say. If you don't have enough parking, too bad. We need apartments. So again, this is kind of what's going on. I want to give everybody an overview because I want to see those uses there. And obviously, we're not going to put in stuff that makes us no money. We don't have enough land anyway.
Right,
So that's
right.
where I
And
stand.
and I think, to kind of sum up, Londonderry, where the exit came in, had a whole bunch of vacant land. So they have opportunities for new build. Derry has opportunity for redevelopment. So we're looking for, opportunities where we can maybe redevelop existing parcels to maximize for the landowner and to also maximize for what we're offering our residents and business owners in the town. And that's really what we're looking for. How do you think we're going to get there? What are the things that we can, maybe permit as uses, or things that we need to, well, this will never go there if that's allowed there. So we're looking for that type of input tonight. We'd really like you to tell us, what do you like about the existing area? What do you think should stay? What do you think should go? If you own an existing business in this area, what are the things about your business that attract people to you, that bring your employees to you? Do we need more of that? Or what are things that you would like to see that would enhance, opportunity for you, or enhance, opportunities for your employees? Like, do they need places to go to lunch where they can get out quick and then come back? Things like that. Do they need access to certain types of businesses that are close by so that, they're not, constantly coming in late because, well, I had to run here and grab this, or I got to leave early because I've got to go here and it closes at, what type of thing do you need that will help? So, we would like your input on that.
Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, yes.
Hi,
In-
Tom
and
Carden, 2 Cunningham
industrial.
Drive. The first thing I want to say is I would leave the zoning alone. I like the general commercial for that area. And then I have a couple of other comments that I want to make, and I've heard that the town is putting their working garage over in back of where the police station is. Is that that true story or not?
I know that they're doing a space needs assessment of the police department, and I know that one of the things that has come up is that the maintenance garage is too small.
So
Because
that's,
that's maintenance for not just police, but fire as well.
okay, so that town garage is going to go over there in back of where the police station is?
I don't know that that's
You
in
don't know?
stone, no. We haven't been, yeah, that hasn't been set in stone.
I
It's a
really- I
discussion
really
point,
hope-
yeah.
I hope you're correct, and I hope that does not come through, because I think that's a terrible idea. I mean, the whole purpose of this project for the last 40 years is economic development, to have people come, and you want to attract people. And if you have people coming off that exit, and you've got, town garages over there, I mean, it doesn't do much for us. And I mean, we don't have a lot of property to develop over there. If you said, I looked at the map today, and it looks like there's about a total of 12 vacant acres over there. So that's not a heck of a lot. Am I close to that?
Right now, I have, per our vision, we've got like 13 acres that are state-owned or vacant.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
off by an acre. Sorry.
Yeah, that was like my
I'm a
last
teacher.
check
I'm
the other
usually
day.
pretty good on my math.
I'm not, that's why I use it.
I know that's good,
Yeah,
but
okay.
I was on the council when we did turn this over to the DOT, and it was never supposed to be 7 lanes. It was supposed to be 4 lanes, and I don't know what you're going to be able to put in over there. Certainly Mr. Trefethen has some property over there that he can, and he's got a pretty good project there, and I hope he's able to do something like that. But the other thing that concerns me is the people that got up and talked tonight. They talked about being able to make a U-turn. Very concerned about the car wash. I mean, that's really bad. And then the other one, I read an article in the Union Leader, I think it was last week sometime. They were talking about the sub shop down there, and he's losing a car space, a parking space, and sounds like he's losing his sign. I mean, that's not what should be happening in this town. I mean, we need to protect those people. Those are the really important people in town and businesses in town that we should be protecting. And the way he said it, well, never mind. I won't get into what he said. It wasn't very nice about what he said about the DOT, and I agree with him. But these are the types of things that the town should be doing. We should be protecting those people. We should be protecting those businesses. We should be protecting the neighborhoods over there from this development. It was never ever supposed to be 7 lanes, and I don't know whose bright idea it was for 7 lanes, but it was a very bad idea. So anyway, I've been on my soapbox long enough. Thank you.
So I just want to kind of go back to something, I think it was Steve that said that Londonderry is getting all the benefit of this. And unfortunately, I think I came here in 2018, and they were just deciding what route this exit was going to take. So we didn't have a whole lot of input. I had practically none. So the job now is to figure out what do we do with what's left over. And yes, it is that Londonderry is going to get a lot of land to develop because they were kind of landlocked before. And 40 years ago, when this process started, we didn't have all the development that you see out there today on Manchester Road and Tinkham Ave and A Street and so on. So that all kind of happened organically while the 40 years passed, waiting for this new exit to come through. So, I just want to make sure that everybody understands that. been a long time coming. And so I think what we're looking to do is not even take things away from the zoning necessarily, but with the opportunities we do have, and I will tell you, I do get calls and people are looking at potentially putting parcels together and doing new projects. It is an exciting time for some people. And also beyond just these zones here, we're getting a lot of interest because of that exit ramp coming down, going further to the bypass to Manchester Road, Ashley Drive area. So we're talking about these zones now because this is the gateway and it only encompasses this amount of land. We know that there's not huge opportunity here, but there is opportunity, and to Steve's point, we do want something that looks nice and that the town's gonna wanna see. I don't think anybody wants to see a big factory on Folsom Road. We're not here for that. What we are looking to do is to figure out, are there things we haven't thought of? And Liz had mentioned hydroponics. We now allow daycare in the industrial zones. Different things have happened that 30 years ago weren't on the radar, but that are now. And I think, how many years ago did we add to that zone? Yeah, 4 years ago, we added new uses because we were hearing from commercial brokers and people looking to locate here that there were new uses bubbling up that we didn't have in our zoning. So we're just trying to get ahead of that a little bit. Things are changing. Think about what's happening in the world with AI, and people are looking for these centers that can generate the electricity for, these heavy-duty computers. We're not that. But it's an example of how things change and uses change, and sometimes you can't anticipate it till it's already upon you. But we have the opportunity over the next 2 years, those things that are coming up now, we can add them into the zone.
Thank you, Bev. Okay, Jim, did you have something else? Okay, yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much. Jim Goss, once again. I'm looking up there, and I see about the concerns. The gentleman that talked about the seeing the publicity on the news about the property being taken from USA Subs. I too, like probably everybody here, saw or heard that. My question is, and I don't mean it to be sarcastic,
No, it's
but I'd
okay.
like to know, since when did the widening, quote unquote, of Crystal Ave become part of the Exit 4 project?
It has been on the plan. So they've been talking, even before, like I left and came back, they had been talking about widening because they need to do they need to change the intersection at Chenito, Manchester, and Crystal. They're going to it's going to be bigger. So they need, with that, as you make that bigger, you've got to like taper in lanes. So there's some land taking that will take place along there. I know that when we were talking about the Chipotle project, we were incorporating preliminary designs from DOT into that entrance area where Chipotle was going to be going in on Crystal, going into the Shaw's Plaza or Hood Plaza. So we've been aware that there were going to be some impacts as they do the final design, and they're finally figuring out exactly where things are going. This is where we're finding that we've got things like signs that are impacted. I know that where Five Guys are, that sign there, that's going to need to move for the signal intersection improvements. And then, I was made aware recently that USA Subs was going to be affected as well. And, we can't, the town of Derry cannot control what the state does. It's the state. But we can work with the property owners, to the best of our ability to help them do what they need to do after this work is done.
Okay, and thank you.
Yeah.
I think it was more, you say it was in the works or has
Yeah.
been in the works for a long time.
Yeah.
We have been, all we've heard for the last umpteen years about this is the 4A, the widening, Folsom Road. All of a sudden, and I'll say again, not sarcastically,
yeah,
but
no.
seemingly out of nowhere, all of a sudden it's on the news, it's in the newspaper about the 40-year owned business is going to be losing property because of the widening of Crystal. Never heard that before, but thank you for the explanation.
No, you're welcome. Yeah, the easements, yeah, but because of the easements, they need to get the sign out of there I haven't seen the plan, so that's my understanding. Okay. Yes.
Good evening. Ralph Valentine. I'm a property owner in Derry and Londonderry, and I have a couple of customers that are impacted by this area. If you could put the area 1 back up. So a couple of comments first. In my mind, the police station should be relocated out of that zone. That's economic area. We should move them and put them someplace where they're not right in the face of in the gateway. Yeah. General commercial does general commercial allow single family?
It does not.
Okay. There's something on the bottom of this that made
Yeah,
a
so
comment.
existing single family as of a certain date, I think
can
it was like
remain.
2016 or something, is allowed to remain, and it's considered what we call a pre-existing non-conforming
Non-conforming.
use. So people who have a home in the general commercial district now are allowed to, add on to their homes and do what they need to do without having to seek zoning relief. If we made it a totally non-permitted use, then anytime someone wanted to do an addition that might encroach on something, like they'd have to go to the ZBA for everything, and that's just not
Okay.
user-friendly. Yeah.
So like a couple of the other comments, I think the industrial 4 and GC zone should pretty much stay the way they are. There's a lot of uses in there that kind of go with that area. One of them that I didn't see in there was a trade school or schools.
No, that came up at the last session, so
And
that,
maybe that should be added. I hope that we don't change all the zoning for all of these parcels in area 1, 2, and 3 to one zone. Okay, good. And even an overlay, you've got to be careful because you have these pockets of areas. You have a pocket of residential. You have a pocket of retail along Folsom. Then you've got the pocket of industrial in A and B. The architectural requirements or wants for all the areas are different. We deal with them now. So it's almost like maybe a little tweaking, but not a lot of change.
yes.
Is in order.
Yes.
And so one other comment on the $5 million that Derry spent. One of the things that it's doing, it's going to take all the traffic that backs up on 102 from Fordway Light to the highway. It's going to relieve that. And we need that relief. There's cars sitting in front of my property for an hour and a half trying to get through.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sure.
I just wanted to say that the sentiments that I expressed in terms of changing the zoning or keeping the zoning are the sentiments of my customers that are in the zone.
Okay, thank you. Any other, do you have any, sure, of course.
I just have a question. Bob Odrak from Chancellor Drive. Just a question on we talked about the car wash and we talked about the police station and then working with some of the landowners. Is there any possibility of, they're going to, I think, lose 50 feet from the front of their property? Is it possible to give them 50 feet on in the back end to allow them more options to expand or modify their building from the police department building, the police department property behind them to help them out?
I don't have an answer to that question, but I will definitely take the suggestion and get it in front of the TA. All right. Does anyone else have any suggestions or comments? Yes, of course.
Faye Provost, Exeter Street. I believe you had mentioned something about a noise concern.
Yes, at the last meeting, you had, I think at the first and the second meeting, you brought up the concerns on Tinkham Ave. And so that was, we definitely took that into consideration. So as we're looking at uses and things, we want to make sure that as we're looking at maybe adding potential uses, that they might be lower impact uses.
And what about the current situation there?
That would be, that is, yeah, unfortunately, unfortunately, that's not anything that I can address tonight. I know that Mr. Mackey has been in touch with the property owners and the business owners there. And they're definitely aware of the concerns, and I know that they're working through that right now. So once a business is in a place, if there are complaints about the business, that falls under the purview of code enforcement as opposed to the planning board.
And I'm just concerned if other companies come in, factories come in, it's a chip factory. Chip-making
Right,
factory.
and so, like Beth had,
Potato chip factory.
yes, and Bev had mentioned at the last meeting, sometimes when a business comes in, we don't all have crystal balls and we don't always know what the impacts will be, but live and learn. So if another business comes in, we're probably going to ask more questions about, well, what is your manufacturing process? What does that look like? What does it sound like? How, we'll ask questions like that.
Because I myself and a number of my neighbors have migraines, have them almost daily.
Okay.
And you can't escape that noise. I can hear it in my house with all my doors and windows closed. There's no peace. There's no peace. You go outside and it's deafening.
Okay. I will, I can bring it up with Bob
And
again
I
in
bought
the
a
morning.
house on a side street, a quiet side street for a reason. And now it's anything but that.
Okay, I hear you. Okay. Okay. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Okay. All right. Can I borrow the mouse back? Thank you, my friend. Okay. Okay. So thank you, everybody, for your input. For bringing your concerns forward. They're all legitimate and they all have been heard. I don't want anyone to walk away from this meeting thinking that you weren't heard, because you were. What we're going to do is we're going to take the information from these 3 visioning sessions. The Gateway Committee is going to pull that all together. We're going to pick out the common threads. We're going to look at it, everything that everyone said, and bring that all together and bring it back in April for another visioning session. It's going to be, the next one will likely be more of the formal. This has been more the brainstorming one. The next one, you can anticipate that will be like, this is what we heard. We might condense it out into, this might be the more formal, we're going to hand you some dots and you're going to tell us what you think. That kind of visioning session. So we'll do that in April, and then we'll take the results of that input, and the planning board will start looking at any potential changes to the zoning. And so what I would do after our April meeting, what I would invite you to do is kind of keep an eye on the planning board agendas, look for the workshops on the zoning changes, come and listen, hear what the planning board's talking about. And if the board does decide to move forward with any changes, please come to the public hearings and let your voice be heard. And once again, as I had said before, when the planning board is finished with their process and has approved any potential changes, we'll bring that forward to town council for their consideration, and you'll have another opportunity there to express your input. So thank you. We're nearing close to 8:30. I really do appreciate everyone taking the time to come out tonight. I've seen some familiar faces over the 3 meetings, and your attendance here has greatly appreciated, especially having to hear the same stuff over and over again. So I really do appreciate that you care enough about this community to come and be heard. So thank you for that. We'll look forward to seeing you in April. Have a good evening.